Hello, my name's Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for April 27th to May 3rd of 2014. Human design is a synthesis of four ancient wisdom systems as a bridge to understanding our potential, to discover our path, to making decisions that are correct for us as individuals. And those traditions are astrology, the I Ching, the Hindu Brahmin chakra system, and the Kabbalistic tree of life. So we're going to look at how all those systems work together in human design. Well, we start by looking at the sun, the planets, the nodes, the moon in the wheel, much like we would in astrology. But instead of looking at them related to zodiological constellations or to each other by the angles that we make, we look at them in relation to the hexagrams of the I Ching. And that's what we have on the outside of the wheel here. Basically, each one of those hexagrams is mapped to a specific location in the body graph. So on April 27th, we have the sun in Taurus, which is represented here by the black circle with the dot in Taurus. It's also in the 27th hexagram, and all the way on the outside of the wheel, we can see that denoted from bottom to top as yang, yin, 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 yang. Basically what we're looking at is that the body graph represents the next stage in our evolution as human beings, from having 7 chakras to now having 9 centers, coincidental with Herschel's discovery of the planet Uranus in 1781. The pathways between the centers are called channels and are from the Kabbalah. These black strips of paper on the chart here represent gates being activated by the sun, the planets, the nodes, regardless if they form a channel. I'm not covering the moon with this demonstration because it really moves very fast, activating 3 to 4 gates in a day, which would turn this presentation into a several hour experience. And as a 5-1 profile, I just really don't feel that would be practical. So we're going to start by talking about the sun. Again, it's in the 27th hexagram right here, this is which then maps to the 27th gate of caring, nourishment, the enhancement of quality and sustenance of all activities through caring. Located in the sacral center in a tribal energy path in the defense circuit, called the channel of preservation, a design of custodianship that connects with the 50th gate, values the cauldron. And I found that human design is an amazingly accurate when in describing people. So I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. We have the following activations on April 27th. Like I said, we have the sun in the 27th. We have the earth in the 28th. The north node is in the 50. The south node in the 3. Mercury is in the 24th gate. Venus is in the 36 over here, the crisis. Mars is retrograde in the 48th gate, the well. We have Jupiter in the 39, Saturn in the 43, Uranus is in the 21, Neptune is in the 37, and Pluto is in the 38. And obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And you can get your human design chart by going to jovianarchive.com and click on the button that says Get Your Free Rave Chart, and then just enter in your birth information. And this neutrino forecast is really just a weather report. And so no matter what the weather is, an individual's strategy and authority is the correct choice to have an authentic experience regardless of what the program is doing. And as Ross said, whatever the weather is going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather is for your pleasure. And we begin this week with two channel definitions. We have the Earth in the 28 and Pluto in the 38. So we have the channel of struggle, which is going to be affecting us until April 27th. So just really the beginning of this report. This really will bring experiences where people struggle against overwhelming odds. It's through this archetypal hero's journey of fighting for our purpose that empowers others to stubbornly fight for what holds meaning for them. And this is about empowerment that comes from being who we're meant to be instead of following the conditioning of our families, schools, religions, governments. It's said to be deaf, which means that it doesn't hear the other to become distracted from its authentic path. And then we've got the sun in the 27 and the north node in the 50, and this is the channel of preservation, which will also be affecting us until April 27th, so just into the first day of this report. The conditioning aspect of this channel is for those of us who don't have this as a part of our design, is to maintain or change the values in your community during this time period. And this could be a time period where folks take on so much responsibility that they lose themselves and lose sight of themselves. People are more likely to focus on nurturing and guiding those in need, particularly children. Since this involves the north node in this definition of the channel, we might look at our environment to see if we observe the themes of values being established or undermined being played out in dialogue or action, which may involve attempts to bring those who are seen as outsiders into the community. For those of us that do not have splenic definition, which both these channels are defining the splenic center, I recently had seen something with Ra Uru where he was talking about this type of definition in the transit field. And one of the things he had warned in his description is that for those of us that don't have the splenic center defined, we might choose to let go of something that's actually good for us when the transit field defines our splenic center. So we're going to be looking at the line values daily because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come through the sun. And as Ra Uru said in Design Perspectives number 56 in his presentation titled Living with the Program with Ra Uru, the lines of the day, when talking about the daily shifts of line values, he said, we can always take advantage of the themes of the day. Now, if your strategy and authority does not lead you in that direction, you can always just notice how the program is affecting others in your environment. So let's get started. On the 27th, it begins again with the sun in the 27th hexagram. It's in the sixth line, this line of the role model, which is weariness, a protection against the abuse of generosity, exalted a practical and realistic approach to nurturing, whose appropriateness is guided by feelings of instinct, the power and strength to be realistic in one's capabilities to care and nurture. Detriment is a tendency to over suspiciousness, the power of suspicion in limiting the expression of caring. And when we think about the sixth line, the role model, it's the roof of the hexagram. It's really looking beyond the hexagram. It's looking at what's coming next. It's more projecting into the future and trying to figure out what's the next thing. And so, the sixth line days are days when Ross says people might have their heads up in the clouds and then run into something and bang their kneecaps. It's a day where there's a lack of focus on what's going around you, where folks are looking beyond their immediate environment. And like a third line day, it could have certain dangers, such as not seeing a car coming or not seeing a bill coming. Those are all things that Ross shared in his talking about the daily line values of the program. And then Later on the 27th, the sun moves out of the 27th hexagram, and the Earth also leaves the 28th hexagram. So these definitions are no longer part of the transit design. And the sun moves up into the 24th, up here where it's joining Mercury, and the Earth moves into the 44th gate. So let's find a 44. Where it will be looking across towards the 26th. And the 44th is the gate of alertness coming to meet. And this shift happens at 7:41 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. All the times I'm going to be giving are going to be Eastern Daylight Time, so you're going to want to be able to convert those to your local time zone, and so that you know when the shift would be appropriate in where you live. And then, okay, the sun is in the 24th gate. This is rationalizing, returning the natural and spontaneous process of transformation and renewal. And the sun is exalted in the 24:1, the sin of omission, transformation that requires regressive periods before renewal can take place. Exalted, the will to triumph in the case of, this case, the faith that the end justifies the means, inspiration that demands a reassessment of past thinking before rational concepts can be established. So, moving into a new hexagram, we're now down in this first line. And when you think about it, the first three lines, the lower trigram here, these are when people are more turned inward. They're absorbed in their own process. The theme of the first day is fear or anxiety that needs to be investigated. So this is a day to study. It's not a day to act. It's a day to look at things, not to jump. It's a good day to deal with the things that you don't understand and make sense of what you don't know. Obviously, if your strategy and authority is leading you in a different direction, then that's what's appropriate for you. But that's the overall theme of a first line day. On the 28th, the sun moves into the second line, again of the 24th hexagram. This shift happens at 6:49 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 24:2 is described as recognition, exalted, the proper and spontaneous adaptation to new forms, the potential gift of conceptualizing spontaneity, detrimented, the vanity to see transformation as a personal achievement rather than a socially supported or natural phenomenon, the mental vanity that the gift of conceptualizing spontaneity can produce. And second line days, now we're in the line of the hermit. The first line we're the investigator. Now in the line of the hermit. The hermit isn't natural. The hermit is waiting for the call. So people might be just waiting at home, waiting to see what they're called to do. So people can kind of be stuck in their own trip, what's going on. So this was typically not going to be a great day to have a huge social gathering because people are not inclined to leave their home unless they're called to be there in that situation. On the 29th, the sun then moves into the third line. Again, this is the line of the martyr. We're still in the 24th hexagram. The shift happens at 5:58 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is the addict, the powerful attraction to regressive forms. Exalted, it's the ultimate the ultimate though difficult triumph over regression. The difficult but possible task of overcoming irrationality. Detrimented, addiction and regression legitimized by success, or irrationality maintained by legitimized success. So third line days is a day to be careful on the roads, be careful of what's in your environment, whether it's, somebody unaware of where they are and they're swinging their elbows around, or opening doors without any idea of who's on the other side. So this is the day where you might have bonds made or bonds broken or bonds made and broken in the same day. Third line days are about a trial and error process where things can bump into you. It can be a good material day, a good day to do business and work on the material plane. But you must be careful, be careful because things can also go wrong. But these things that go wrong are there to lead us to discovery. And then also on the 29th, Mercury moves and it leaves the 24 and moves into the 2. And so let's find a good 2 here. It's pretty long. Let's look at my 2. And so this is about our drive. That's not the one. All right. And so anyway, think about Mercury. Mercury was the messenger of the gods. So this is about communication. This is about expansion of human consciousness. And Ross said not just through communication, but also through music. So what do you need to communicate in life? Well, Ross says we need to communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. So what are we communicating in the second hexagram? Well, it might be higher knowing because this is the gate of higher knowing, the receptivity as a primal base through which any response is determined, the root of action. And Mercury in the second hexagram in the first line is intuition, sensitivity to disharmony and atrophy. Exalted, the importance of aesthetics, whether inborn or acquired, higher knowing through aesthetics. Detrimented, the assertion of ego in spite of wisdom, the urge for action that will ignore the wisdom of the higher self. And the 30th, that's when the sun moves into the 4th line. So it moves up into this line of the opportunist. Again, we're still talking about the 24th hexagram. The shift happens at 5:07 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The 24/4 is described as the hermit, transformation that can only take place in isolation. Exalted, the discipline and focus that assures renewal. Aloneness enriches the potential for rational thought. Detrimented, it's the tendency in isolation to live in a fantasy world. Aloneness encourages the potential for illusion or delusion. So 4th line days, this is really when we're changing because we've gone from the lower trigram to the upper trigram. And so in the 4th line day, this is when there's a shift from a more inward perspective to more looking outward. And the 4th line brings these themes of friendship, companionship, of networking. 4th line days are great for social interaction. People are more open to networking, being friendly and social. Might be a day when you've been trying to get a hold of someone for a few days and you call them and you actually are able to connect. May 1st, the sun moves into the 5th line, so we're up into the line of the heretic. Again, the 24th hexagram. This is at 4:17 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 24/5 is described as confession, the courage to admit mistakes of the past. Exalted, the practical value of starting with a clean slate, symbolized by the new moon. Rational connection that opens the way to new possibilities. Detrimented, the tendency to try to minimize past mistakes through rationalization, turning confession into justification, irrational justification of past mistakes. So the 5th line, we're in the line of the heretic now. This can be a day of suspicion, but it could also be a day of universalization, that something can leak out and spread very rapidly like a virus. You might see a YouTube video that's getting millions of viewings or a Facebook post that goes viral. Like I said, there's a great deal of suspicion and paranoia associated with the 5th line day. Although there's such projection of this A lot of times that paranoia is justified because if you're not meeting the expectation, they are out to get you, which can really impact the nature of relationships. So again, we're looking at themes of rejection, also seduction are themes of fifth line days. And we have Venus, and it moves from the 36 into the 25. So, see what we got here. All right. And and Jupiter, this is very significant. Jupiter is leaving the 39. And they're so long, it's going to leave part of the panel on here. Let's see if we get it. All right. And it moves to the 53 over here. So that's a big change because Jupiter's been on the 39 for quite a while now. So in human design, Venus is very powerful and deeply misunderstood according to Ra. It's about morality and natural law in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around you. What disturbs you on a moral level. Your design and personality Venuses tell you the moral dilemma that you're going to work with in life, according to Ra. If you do not act with moral clarity, Venus can be very unkind in its retribution. In the 25, Venus is about is in the gate of the spirit of the self, innocence, the perfection of action through uncontrived and spontaneous nature. Venus is moving forward, so it's entering into the first line of the 25, which is selflessness, motiveless action, exalted, the universalization of activity, psychic attunement that is its own reward, the potential of centering through attunement to challenges, detrimented, a tendency to publicize one's selflessness, the insecurity of the self maintained in times of challenge. And also in the first, this is when Jupiter has moved now into the 53rd hexagram in human design. Jupiter is generalized law, the electromagnetic central operating theater for the way that the solar system operates, living by the law that can gain great good fortune. Activations in our human design chart tell us the law that we must live by, according to Ra. To benefit from the generosity only comes from deep obedience to honoring your own law, your individual strategy and authority. Jupiter in the 53rd gate of beginnings, development. Development is a structured progression that is both steadfast and enduring. And Jupiter enters into the first line of the 53, which is accumulation, exalted, the dissolution of old forms, but not at the expense of valued components that will be strained and transformed. The pressure to begin something new, not from scratch, but based on the foundation of the old. Detrimented, development hampered by criticism and the tendency to withdraw rather than make use of these experiences. The difficulty in starting something new because criticism that accompanied the old. And then on the second, the sun moves into the 6th line. This is the role model line, again, still in the 24th hexagram. The shift happens at 3:28 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 24/6. This is the gift horse, the possibility of being deaf when opportunity knocks. Exalted, the conscious participation in a process that prepares one for easy identification of opportunity, identification with the focus with rational thought process. Detrimented innate suspicion, which leads to inevitably to lost opportunities, often rational suspicion that distorts the focus and can lead to missed opportunities. So we're back to where we started in the sixth line. So again, looking beyond, maybe not really focused on what's happening right in our world in the now. Maybe people are thinking about future events or thinking about what's going to come next. So maybe not so aware of what's happening right in their environment. So this is something that, you have this information. Perhaps this will benefit you in being aware of what's happening in your environment. So that you can avoid, anything that comes up, a car coming, a bill coming, something like that. But again, strategy and authority. Also on the second, this is the point where Mercury moves, because Mercury is a very fast mover, and it leaves the second hexagram, and it moves up here to the 23rd. Find it. Which brings us a definition here. Back up to center here. All right. Hopefully that'll stay to the end of the report anyway. So again, Mercury, messenger of gods. So this again is about communication. And in the 23rd, this is the gate of assimilation, splitting apart, amorality, the awareness and understanding, which leads to acceptance of diversity. Mercury in the 23-1 is proselytization, the attempt to undermine one set of values for another. Exalted, the sage, who in the extreme can defend evil as part of the greater good. The professional expression of insight that will undermine established values. Detrimented, the missionary, whose very light will bring darkness, the powerful expression of insight that will produce negative effects. And we've got, Mercury in the 23, we've got Saturn up here in the 43. This is the channel of structuring, which will be with us until May 4th. And this is about individuals having amazing insights that require two conditions to be fulfilled to be recognized by others. First, the person has the person that has an epiphany must wait to be invited, because this is a projective channel, to share their insight. And second, they'll need to be able to explain their idea in a step-by-step process so that their audience can methodically understand how this quantum leap in thinking was arrived at. More likely, this is going to be a time period where people will blurt out whatever's on their mind. So I suspect we're going to encounter more freaks than geniuses during the time of this definition. And then on the 3rd, the sun moves out of the 24 and into the second hexagram here. And the Earth moves out of the 44 and into the first hexagram. Okay, and so the Earth is in the first gate of self-expression, the creative. The shift happens at 2:39 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, with the sun in the second gate of higher knowing, the receptivity as the primal base through which any response is determined, the root of action. The sun in the second hexagram in the first line of intuition, sensitivity to disharmony and atrophy, exalted the importance of aesthetics whether inborn or acquired, higher knowing through aesthetics, detrimented the assertion of ego in spite of wisdom, the urge for action that will ignore the wisdom of the higher self. So again, now we're down in the lower trigram again. We're coming in the first line. So this shifts us back to more of an inward process. And again, first line is the investigator, where an anxiety or a fear triggers something that needs to be investigated. So you may find yourself involved in some type of study or looking into things that you don't understand. And because we are now entering into the second hexagram, we're actually moving into the quarter of civilization and a new God's head of Maya, which we'll be discussing next week. This week, really, though, we're just finishing off moving through the 42, the 3, the 27, and the 24, which are all associated with the Janus God's head. As most of the week, we're completing the very end of the quarter of initiation, which has really been about our focus on the mind as it relates to form, our personality as it relates to our design. The idea of being a mind that's in the body. But next week we'll dig into Maya and into the quarter of civilization. So no matter what the energies are that are conditioning you during the week, remember this experience is about being a passenger that's riding in a vehicle driven by the magnetic monopole. So enjoy the scenery. Let the vehicle take you where you need to go through using your strategy and authority. Every single day we have is a blessing, no matter what the dramas are that beckon to distract us. We're all here just giving the performance of a lifetime on the world stage. Just take some time out to observe the play as well as act your part. Remember, you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. As always, thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be on May 4th, 2014. It should be available on the 3rd, when we're going to continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, or YouTube, and I encourage you to share this information as videos or text as widely as you choose. I'll be discussing the transits of May 2014 and providing short human design readings, 10 to 15 minute readings, to the participants of the Earth Needs Rebels show on Truth Frequency Radio on Thursday, May 1st. I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions or you wish to schedule a reading. So if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I'd love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect on Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available, although the best way to make a donation is get a reading. So you'll get that at, understanding of yourself, as well as supporting us here at New World Birth. As always, I am blessed that you've taken the time out to connect with my passion for all these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. Thank you for your time, and I hope to connect with you either on the radio show or in a reading or in a future video or any other way. So peace, everybody. Thank you for your attention and awareness to this offering.